to attend, being the county, the township, the library, the schools. I believe, sent correspondence to all the representatives from each of those units. I think we have at least one township here with us this evening. And so, kind of look at the first, to the first page there. This started in 2018, and what we're required to cover at this meeting, there's kind of three topics. The first of which is the Redevelopment Commission's budget with respect to the property tax or the TIF that you receive or RDC is in control of. The long-term plans for the RDC in the TIF area, and then the impact of the TIF and the RDC decisions on all those overlapping units. And so I'm going to go through and cover those topics. And
all right. Perfect.
Yeah, feel free to stop me if you have any questions or want me to clarify anything. So just a kind of a quick refresher. The Redevelopment Commission, the primary duties, and this is kind of like textbook definitions, right? Your role is to investigate or study areas in the town in need of economic development. And there's a lot of ways to do that, but I think last year when we talked, the Wellness Center was really the only thing that had kind of been discussed. Obviously, since then we've had the COVID project has been a big topic and discussion, things like that. That is what this your RDC. This is what your role is to look at opportunities for the town in that TIF area. And so you are guided by a plan. There's a plan. Your TIF area, the economic development area, has a plan associated with it, and it is more vague than it is precise, the plan. But what it ultimately, that plan is designed to do is to provide guidance to benefit the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the town. So the projects and that you guys are entertaining and reviewing, that's one thing you guys want to consider is what's that and how does it benefit the citizens of the town, right? I mean, that's the ultimate goal through economic development. If you go to the next page, I've got a map. There's a map of the town of New Palestine, and so the green bar outlines the entire economic development area, and that is just simply identifies potential economic development opportunities. It doesn't mean there will be or there won't be, but when you first establish the area, there's some requirements that you have to meet to establish that area, and the green area is what has kind of been identified. The yellow and the gray areas, I'm sure most of you are familiar. The gray area specifically has the Wellness Center in there, and those have been technically designated allocation area. So it starts as an economic development area, a theory, potential, then it converts into an allocation area, at which time that's when it officially could start generating tax increment revenue, right, with the incremental growth and assessed value. So back in 2019, you can see we expanded that allocation area. Of course, the hospital came along in that project. Since then, this year, Bakovic, I believe you folks passed the confirmatory and declaratory resolutions, creating the Bakovic allocation area in the southern, the bottom portion of the yellow there. So it didn't change it; it just carved it out into, its own specific area. Any questions thus far? Nope. The next page. This is the current outstanding bond for the Wellness Center project, and there's a couple little tweaks. I know this year, 2022, we started actually generating increment from that area, and the June settlement was in the amount of $230,000. the agreement on that project was that the town, or excuse me, the RDC keeps the first $25,000 per settlement. The remaining go to pay down the bonds. And so in this case, $205,000 was paid. In this illustration, you basically, because of the build out and the time to get the assessed value in place, there was accumulated or accrued interest. So these first couple of payments are really going to pay back interest. But right now, everything indicates that we're ahead of schedule and that we're generating more increment than originally projected, which is a good thing because we can pay the bonds off sooner, save interest costs, and thus, once the bonds are paid off, the increment then stays with the RDC, in which that gives you guys resources, the RDC resources to make those opportunities to reinvest in other areas within the town. The TIF has been a really beneficial tool in a lot of communities, and not just for a business or the business, but I know Yvonne and I talked about it, like, you can be very creative with it, and I cover it later on, but the definition is as long as it's serving or benefiting the area. It doesn't mean the money has to be spent in the area. For example, up the road, Greenfield invested TIF funds into a splash pad. The idea being the splash pad creates a better living, right? Which attract high quality employees, which translates to jobs. So just as an example, and there's kind of endless opportunities out there, but really TIF is a wonderful tool for the town to use to make positive changes really around town. So I got a little bit off, but this is the current outstanding debt, and that's based on the hospital. The next page, so we talked about the long-term plans, and so you guys are relatively new. RDC, your TIF area is new. I think literally just got what I would consider a real settlement in June. So I think there's still a lot to figure out. What do we want to do? And it's good. I know that you guys are having more discussions about that, but right now, I think the goal is to follow the plan, analyze opportunities. As you accumulate or develop more resources, you'll be able to have more options at your disposal. So, and I had a note, that plan that there can be amended as because things evolve. Page 7, this is just a list of kind of what I would consider, these are like common items, like general list of potential items that TIF funds could be used for. And this is where I have my note talking about really the definition is if it's serving or benefiting the area, those funds could be used for that. So the next schedule there, page there, 8. So we talk about the impact on the overlapping units. I guess the first thing is the ability and the resources you have to reinvest. It helps create jobs, retain people, brings new residents, whether some people want that or not, that's depends on who you ask, but it does. It brings in more income to the community, to the county, and back to the local government. Private sector investment, food facilities, and all kinds of commercial business. So I think that's some of the things that people, when you say impact of the TIF on our units, they forget. Everybody goes to the numbers, and they forget that there is a kind of qualitative factor to it as well. Of course, there is the numbers, and so on the next schedule, I did an illustration. What does it mean? What does TIF do to overlapping units? And so this is 2021, page 22, and you see all the overlapping units, and you can see the township. You got your township and the fire territory there. So we've got the county, we've got the town, we've got the school, and we've got all the assessed values and the tax rate and their associated levy. These are real numbers. So what we do is we take that, and on page 10, we say, well, if a business, well, we'll just say a business comes in here and it has an assessed value of $1 million, it could go to TIF, in which when that happens, the $1 million becomes captured AV, and the property taxes that are generated off of that $1 million go to the RDC. That's how TIF works. Just the incremental. It doesn't take anything away from the other units. Now, we say, okay, let's say it doesn't go to TIF and the $1 million goes to all the overlapping units. So what you'll see here is that the true tax value column there, all those numbers increase by $1 million. It's kind of like a what if, right? So if we add $1 million to everybody, what does that mean? That means that it doesn't necessarily mean there's more money for the county, for example, because those of you that are familiar with the budget process, we don't just get a levy whatever you want. You're set by a statutory limit. So in the county's case, their maximum levy is $12,271,000. So if they get $1 million more of assessed value, they don't get to generate the incremental property tax from it. What it does is it lowers the tax rate. And what is $1 million AV on the county? It is 0.0001. So a tenth of a penny, which is relatively immaterial. Then you have the CCD. That is a fixed rate, so that's 33 cents. So in that case, it does generate more money, and for the county, it would be $333. So the same as for all of these. You can see the town, and so the town's also an overlapping unit. When it goes, the TIF goes to the RDC, it doesn't go to the town general fund. So they're in the same boat as all the other units. But what it means is that in this illustration, the tax rate would go down half of a penny, 0.005, overall in the entire tax, which is not, it's relatively immaterial. Any questions? There's a lot of numbers. I'm trying to get the concepts out there, but the bottom line is there's no lost revenue per se at all, because they can only bill so much. You have a cap. And then we come to kind of, this has been a TIF, this idea of the but-for test, right? So I know the current project that is being discussed, it's this idea that, without TIF, that maybe it doesn't move forward. I think they made it very clear that in order for them to make it work for theirs, I'm not here to talk about that, but as a real life example, the idea that without TIF, they are not able to do their project. And so, but for, the town would have insufficient resources to provide the necessary infrastructure to facilitate the economic development, right? You guys can use the TIF to help build the roads and put the infrastructure in, so these companies, it's worth it to them to come here and build. Limited resources, it creates jobs. These companies bring in jobs. And then also, for the schools, the school does generate some of its revenues through property taxes, but most of it comes from the state based on student head count. So there's always a bit of, mixed feelings between TIF and schools, and I understand, but yeah, it's not completely one-sided. Other than that, I put Yvonne's name on there if you have any questions. You feel free to reach out to me, but.
Thank you.
Very good.
Do we need to approve this report, or? No. I think so.
No, you just, it's one of those things that Yvonne, like state board may come in and say, hey, did your RDC do this meeting? And of course she'll have it in the minutes. There's no motion, I don't believe, so.
Okay.
So I've got a question on this, and maybe I should see you afterwards.
Go ahead, ask.
I mean,
As
yes.
we establish this, and there becomes more and more money in this pot, you might say, is there going to be regular paperwork, some way that we can access this from a township fire department side if we need some sort of equipment, that we can make a request to you? I know with Greenfield and their issues, especially with the ARP money that was deposited, they've got all this money, but they don't really have a way to disperse it. And so they're navigating those waters right now. So seeing that, I would like to know we have something in play.
And to be honest with you, we do not at this point.
Okay.
Again, like you said, this is
Right.
new to us, so.
Okay.
Now, obviously, we would love your input,
Okay.
because we would like to understand, where's the need at? You know, that we can't help, where town may not be able to do it, or you get the funding from the state, so. But in terms of being able, would we be able to track that online, the money that we have? That I could, I know it's public record, but I don't know how that's.
Yeah, all that fund accounting is not online.
Okay.
It's in the AFR, so they have a separate fund. They'll have a separate fund, so you have the year-end cash balances. I would imagine, like, reach out to Yvonne and
Yeah.
the RDC and, you know,
Request the
yeah.
information
I'll be down here
and
soon.
But there's no, like, I don't think there's a formal, and you'll see, and when you get into your, you know, there's no, like, upload of
Okay.
the
But I'm
funds.
assuming that as time goes on and you have meetings to discuss the needs of the town and where where you would like to use the funds based on where the needs are,
Right.
that these conversations will be had and your needs and, the schools.
Oh, yeah.
And also, obviously, the town manager will have stuff to say about, hey, this is where we see the need, this is,
Mhm.
and then you guys discuss it, and it'll be, again, public meetings, so everybody will be able to know, and,
Yeah.
you'll
Good enough.
obviously be able to have your input.
Yvonne,
Yeah.
may I add to that?
Yeah.
What I would ask is you guys start with a focus group and then meet with the schools, fire department, maybe Main Street, the town, and find out where those needs are. And that way you can, come together with a focus group and get the whole input. 'Cause it's gonna be difficult.
Can I add that I was in charge of grant making at the Community Foundation for 5 years, and I have some very strong ideas on how we should do this.
Yeah.
And I would love to have that conversation. It's been, ideas have been percolating since I've been involved in this committee, and I would love to that's my forte. You've got the right person on the committee for when it comes to how to give that money away.
Good. Yeah, but we would like to have that, entertain the discussions on what your needs are. Would like that. The same was all the other overlapping areas. So,
I like the idea of the focus group. I don't
I do
know,
too.
you
Now, normally, would you do that as a one-off with each group, or would you pull those together?
I don't know how that's commonly done. I think you can,
Why?
I think it would be more productive let everybody, like, to meet individually and then kind of,
Yeah.
because otherwise,
Oh, yeah.
it's maybe a lot of stuff coming at once from different directions, and then maybe you come together. Yeah,
Okay.
but I think having this guy. I mean, so for right now though, until anything else changes, really you're only getting about $50,000 a year,
Yeah.
max, until the hospital. Of course, the COVID would change things
or
dramatically.
any other kind.
Or any other- any other-
Say day for the grocery store on the property or whatever. All of that would change those numbers. And $25,000 is a lot of money. However, it's a drop on a hot plate of learning in this environment.
If you're looking for
You
a fire
know.
truck, it's not.
Uh,
So if you're looking to buy a fire truck, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't go that far, but over time, that will, and I think that definitely this would be a good time to kind of start to come up with a plan on how you might deal with that and how you might go about identifying, needs, and then after that, of course, how you might deal with where you're gonna spend the money. obviously the money is not meant to be sitting in an account forever, but it also, $25,000 by itself may not be enough to make a really large difference somewhere. However, it could pay for a study that needs to be done, or an engineering, start someplace, or whatever. I mean, obviously, I'm just an accessory to all of this. But by all means, ask me about the money. I should know something.
You've got some good ideas. We've talked, she has some good ideas. I'm sure you all know, but.
I think everybody comes with some ideas, and we'll put them all on the table.
Well, and I think the important part is to be transparent and fair, and we want to make sure that we're
Absolutely.
involving everyone in that discussion and considering all ideas, so.
Yeah. You can only spend the money once, so you're always gonna have people that are unhappy with the choice that are made. And then you can
100%.
have people that are thrilled. So, we'll just do the best that we all can, make the right decision, the best decision.
Fair enough.
It's good.
All right, so now the next item on business was just discussion of possible future goals. I think that's what we're looking at probably here in terms of what do we do with the money as it comes in, as we get a substantial amount. I agree. I think the idea with the focus groups is an excellent idea, and we start moving forward with that.
Get some kind of direction. What needs to be out there.
So would we want to meet as a commission with each group, or do we want to have a representative meet?
That's a good question. Can we, I don't know what the rules would be. Can you have one or two people out of the
That's why
commission
I
meet?
think you can have two from the commission, and then
No more than two, or at least two?
I think that it's two max,
I
otherwise
think
you have a quorum.
if you had more than two, it would be a quorum, which really, I mean, that doesn't mean that's a problem.
No.
It just means that any
Has to be
time
official.
you got together with that focus group, you would have to be advertised as a meeting.
Yeah,
Which is not a problem. It just means it has to be plain, yeah.
which also makes it more difficult to get everybody, I mean, everybody has their regular jobs in addition to doing this. So I would say two from, your RDC group, and then maybe one or two that are outside of that are an interested party, or just somebody who wants to put some time towards this, and, I'm happy to be part of that if you would like me to, when, we'll just start meeting with people, get some ideas, put some stuff on paper, and, then reconvene with everybody to see what the results of that were.
That's a good idea. I think you'd be really good, Yvonne.
But if we start looking at the overlapping units here, so are we really looking at 7 overlapping units? Or
No,
we
you
the
have-
Hancock County and the county.
Yeah, that's the
This is
same.
indeed
So you
the
have the
same.
county, I'll just look at the lit. Yeah, you have the county, the township. So those two go together. I just had to break out the county because it's a fixed rate. I wanted to, it's long, yeah. So that's one. Sugar Creek is one. Of course, the town, and then the school. So you only have 4.
So the
Library.
library now but the library is now funded by the county directly, am I right? And not through
I
them.
think so. They just didn't show. Yeah.
My
They have a-
understanding is the library does not.
It's underneath the county's umbrella.
Yeah.
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 So that would be.
Hmm?
Don't they have an economic development tax for the library? Or is that changed?
Oh,
It
they're
might have
funding it
changed.
with edit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's under the county.
okay.
It would be under
Yeah,
the county.
I don't think that they anymore are an overlapping unit. I think that ended
Mm-mm.
like last year or something, that they started changing it. Now, I don't know that for sure, and I'll be happy to do some
Yeah,
digging.
we want to confirm.
Maybe I'll call my financial advisor to figure it out.
I don't know. Figure it out.
That makes some phone calls.
So I would like to go ahead, and not at this point, but think about timing when we could have these focus group meetings.
the information out, somehow they'd be contacted.
Well, maybe it'd be good to decide who you're gonna have from the focus group, and then, I can call and make some appointments and see what works for everybody. You know, get together with Main Street, get together with Jim as the town manager, get together with Jason at some point, get together with Lisa Lantrip or Mr. Yoder, and, you know, just have some conversations. You know, Julie from Main Street, I mean, it's just a matter of figuring out who has the time when, and then when you wanna reconvene for another meeting. And determining who has the time to do it.
Can they table it?
So I guess my question would be, we would be looking at, if we want to start this probably the January, February timeframe, get past the holidays.
Yeah.
Would anyone have a preference on which of the overlapping areas they would like to have the meetings with?
Start with Jim,
Pardon?
start with Jim.
Yes, but I mean in terms on the committee here,
Oh, who wants
is there
to
anyone
be
that
on
want
it?
to be one of the people that represents the commission? I'm happy to commit with all of them, as being one
I
of
mean,
those
I'm happy
representatives.
to, and I have flexibility in my schedule right now, so.
Might be easiest
That
to
could
have
change,
the
but-
same two people do
Yeah.
all of them. Then you
Group
kind
like
of have
that.
consistent, the same two people are hearing from all of, you know, parties, like a committee,
Mhm.
I guess.
And then report back to the committee.
And
as a
then,
whole.
and then you report back to the whole, and that way it's kind of this, you're hearing the same things.
All right, so you and I?
Sure.
Okay. Who else do you want on there?
You,
Just
Rachel
the
and
two.
I know, but outside of your RDC, do you want me on there, or do you want Brenda, or do you want somebody else
Yvonne
on
would be
there as
perfect.
well?
Yeah, so Yvonne makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Point of contact for everything anyway, so.
Mhm.
There.
It only makes sense.
Your name's on the
be-
presentation.
Yes.
There you go. All right,
Too.
and then well, all right,
And information can be added as we go along, right, people or
absolutely.
questions, so.
And if maybe at some point if Steve can't go, then you can, or, you know. But it'd be, I mean, none of these meetings have to take a really long time. It's
No.
just getting the information from people, what's playing out there, and then you can go from there on what you want to do with that information and the timing of it. So I'll start setting up a couple of appointments, and I'll contact you, see if those dates work for you.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Or you can send me an email and say, hey, this time works, this time frame definitely doesn't. And I'll work with that.
Tuesdays are generally my worst day, just FYI.
Those things are good to know.
My calendar is pretty much open. I don't have any planned travel. I do know the first week of April, I will be, I would expect to be unavailable.
Me too. I know we were going that far out, but that's my spring break.
Mhm.
Okay, those things are good to know. And we'll communicate via email and we'll figure it out.
Okay, very good.
Get that started, and you can call a follow-up meeting, you know, as we kind of get along and we have something to talk about. How's that? You don't have to set that next meeting yet.
All right, thank you. Good discussion, folks. I think that wraps up our agenda for the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the New Palestine Redevelopment Commission?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll go in second.
All right, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, state nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And we do have a couple documents here.